Let me tell you, if you ever think your neighbor's a handful, try having one who calls 911 on a plane crash and not to help. Nope. Darlene Wickham dialed the cops to report me for allowing unauthorized aircraft on my ranch, while paramedics were literally hauling a bleeding kid out of the wreckage. I wish I was making this up, but trust me, you can't invent crazy like this. Picture me 6 a.m., still in my boxer's blood on my hands from helping a pilot who crashed a Cessna in my back pasture when Darlene storms up yelling about property values. Yeah, that happened. The morning was thick with the smell of scorched metal and jet fuel fire trucks hosing down a smoking engine, and there's Karen clipboard in hand shrieking about code violations. You've got 24 hours to get this junk off your property, or it's $500 a day. She crows like she's casting spells instead of fines. I just nodded. Lady, that's a federal investigator in my driveway. The blood drained from her face faster than oil from a cracked sump because what she didn't know was her little power trip was about to blow up in the biggest federal investigation this county had ever seen. So who am I in all this? Name's Garrett Sullivan. I'm 52, ex-Air Force helicopter wrench monkey turned aircraft restorer, third-generation Texan on land my great-granddad bought with $200 and a handshake back in 1890. After 20 years of service and one hell of a divorce, this patch of dirt became my sanctuary. My mornings were routine coffee, steaming in the cool dawn boots, crunching over gravel cattle, stirring on fresh grass. I ran a tiny restoration business out of my barn, just breathing life into old birds for folks who appreciate honest work. For decades, all I had was farmland and peace until the developers swept in like locusts. Goodbye cornfields. Hello. Meadowbrook Estates. 200 look-alike houses with the Charleston and the Hampton stamped out like cookies. My property got grandfathered in so legally they couldn't touch me. Didn't mean they stopped wishing I'd vanish. Most new neighbors were decent helping hands during storms, borrowing tools, minding their business. Then 3 years ago, Darlene Wickham rolled in, fresh from Orange County, black BMW designer heels, and that brittle smile you only see on people who have never been told no. Within 6 months, she'd smooth-talked her way to HOA president. Within a year, our sleepy street was her personal fiefdom. Her opening act was to go after the Ramirez's elderly couple vegetable garden, so perfect it made the cover of the garden club calendar. Darlene called their tomatoes a landscaping violation. The Johnsons' young black couple with 2 kids, she said their driveway basketball hoop attracted undesirable activity. Yeah, because Marcus playing after school is apparently a crime now. Pattern was clear: if you weren't part of her Stepford fantasy, she wanted you out. Then it was my turn. She spotted my workshop from the main road. Never mind, it's a football field from the nearest house behind a stand of oaks. She totters up in those heels, waves her manicured hand, and says, "This rusty eyesore has to go. Paint it beige or tear it down." I explained my land predated her subdivision by 100 years. She just smiled all teeth. There are ways to deal with uncooperative neighbors. Trust me. She tried them all: code enforcement, tax challenges, fire marshal complaints every time coming up empty because I played by the book. All that led to the morning. Everything went sideways. Coffee on the porch, Texas sun coming up mist over the pond, then a Cessna engine starts coughing overhead. Quiet as a church mouse, it glides down, skidding to a halt right by the pond. The kid flying it was barely 23, apologizing with a broken wrist. I told him, "Son, don't you worry about my fence. Let's patch you up first." Textbook emergency response, fire trucks, sheriff ambulance, even a news chopper buzzing overhead. Then Darlene blows in silk pajamas, flapping slippers worth more than my truck, and starts barking at everyone to remove this eyesore before property values collapse. Even the paramedics stopped to stare at her like she was a zoo exhibit. I kept it cool, ma'am. This is federal business now. NTSB's got to investigate. She goes redder than a stop sign, shouting at the sheriff about backwoods landing strips. Every second was caught on the news cameras, her screaming while the rest of us tried to help an injured kid. 3 days later, I get a violation notice so thick it could stop a bullet, $500 a day fines, threats of property seizure, all retroactive to the day of the crash. A handwritten note at the bottom. Perhaps some people would be happier in less regulated areas. Some people write. Now you'd think that was the climax, but that's just Act 1. I did what any good Air Force vet does, dug into the Texas Property Code and found Section 2024 crystal clear HOA can't override federal law, period. Bonus round selective enforcement is discrimination, and the law hates that. But here's where it gets real weird. I call my old buddy Jake at the FAA for some advice. He says, "Funny thing, we got a complaint about your property 3 months ago." Wait, what? Complaint claimed you were running an illegal airport endangering the subdivision. Filed hours before the crash investigation. That's when it clicks. Darlene didn't react to the accident, she planned for it. The complaint was full of insider jargon, property maps, technical stuff only an aviation pro would know. She'd been gaming the system, not just making noise. 5 days later, she holds an emergency HOA meeting, invites the news, paints herself as the neighborhood savior protecting kids from my dangerous hobby airport. I walk in with my folder of regs, ask her on camera how she managed to file FAA complaints months before a crash. She stammers. The room turns cold, and for the first time the crowd starts doubting her. Afterward, neighbors start sharing their Darlene horror stories. Memorial gardens threaten kids' bikes, cited as violations, all the same profile, elderly, minority, working class. That night over Rico's pozole in his kitchen, we realized this wasn't just about me or my planes. Darlene was systematically targeting folks to drive them out, then buying up their houses on the cheap. Every property flipped by her shell company Wickham Holdings made her a fortune. She weaponized the HOA to run a real estate scam. Then she escalated. Insurance companies got anonymous tips about my liability. Rico's boss started getting calls questioning his character. Martha's grandson's school got complaints that she wasn't safe to chaperone field trips. It was economic warfare, psychological isolation, classic bully tactics. The wolf never sleeps, as Rico's grandma used to say. That's when we started fighting back, collecting evidence, pooling money for a real lawyer, documenting every encounter. Darlene tried more stunts, dragging the tax assessor out to accuse me of running a commercial airport, sending process servers with slap suits for millions, even hiring private investigators to follow us around, take photos of our kids, cut my fences, vandalize gardens. The more desperate she got, the more erratic. Social media campaigns, fake safety groups, even bribing city officials for targeted regulations. The twist, her inside source for all the aviation knowledge was her ex-husband, who worked for an aircraft insurance company. She'd been blackmailing him to hand over confidential data, tail numbers, crash reports, stuff only the feds should see. When Agent Hayes from the FAA figured it out, that's when the game changed. RICO charges, mail fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy, witness intimidation. Her whole operation was now a federal case. With the legal hammer swinging down, Darlene tried to bribe witnesses to recant. She even attempted to frame me for terrorism, called in a bomb threat to my ranch, triggered a SWAT response at 3 a.m., and my security cameras caught her BMW circling the property minutes before the call. Rico's tech skills uncovered that she was using demographic data to target exactly who she wanted out: elderly, minorities, veterans, so she could flip the neighborhood one house at a time, even manipulating school boundaries for future profit. But predators always slip. Her own board abandoned her lawyers, dropped her, even family distanced themselves. We hit back with a federal civil rights lawsuit, 23 families, $2.8 million in damages, court-appointed oversight. Her empire crumbled. Asset forfeiture returned homes to original owners, and she ended up with 18 months in federal prison and millions owed in restitution. Now, the best part, our neighborhood didn't just survive, we thrived. Martha's Memorial Garden is a community gathering spot. Rico's kids host the basketball games. Everyone comes to watch. My workshop is open door, and the smell of cookies and barbecue replaces the stink of violation notices. Settlement money went to a justice scholarship for families fighting HOA abuse statewide. And when the press shows up, they see kids laughing, old folks gardening, and neighbors from every background building something together. So let me ask you, if your HOA, Karen, tried to fine you for a plane crash, or worse, what would you do? Drop your wildest neighbor horror story below and share how you'd handle it. Because let me tell you, justice is only possible when ordinary folks refuse to back down and stand up together. If we did it, so can you. What's your take on justice, on right versus wrong, or have you survived HOA hell yourself? Hit those comments. Let's hear your story.